podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to robot facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we tell you the truths the dairy industry doesn't want you to hear. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. If you can't write a $3 million check tomorrow, you might already be extinct. The industry just hasn't told you yet. Today's episode exposes the $11 billion betrayal happening right now. Your processor is building infrastructure for your replacement while selling you $650,000 solutions that guarantee bankruptcy. What you're about to hear includes actual math that proves 60 to 70% of dairy farmers would be wealthier selling tomorrow than milking another day. We'll reveal why North Dakota went from 1,810 dairy farms to just 24, and why your state is next. This is information your banker, your co-op, and your processor never want you to hear, because your losses are subsidizing their entire business model. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we use raw industry analysis and sources like the Bullvine to cut through the noise and get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece that's been generating some serious buzz, really hitting home across the industry.
Yeah, this article, The Engineered Extinction of Family Dairy, it's not just looking back, is it? It feels like a forecast.
It really does. It's got layers and, frankly, some surprises that are going to force producers, folks on the ground, to rethink fundamental approaches to investment and, well, farm viability itself.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack the staggering financial and, structural betrayals happening right now in real time within the dairy supply chain. We're going to show you exactly why the conventionalism about scaling, about technology, even about organic markets, why it's potentially setting up family dairies for what this source material explicitly calls an engineered failure.
And I can tell you, the farmer reaction I'm hearing, it isn't really shock. It's more like confirmation. The content here is, it's jarring, but it speaks to this deep, uncomfortable truth that a lot of folks have felt brewing for a long time.
It really does.
It forces every producer to look at their operation, not through, tradition or sentiment, but through a cold, hard financial lens. Asking that tough question, am I an economic asset here, or am I becoming a liability that the system, needs to liquidate?
Let's start right there with the core message that defines the urgency. Because this isn't about 20 years down the road, is it? This is about the next 24 months.
That's happening fast.
The article's brutal context setting is basically this. If you can't write a check for $3 million tomorrow, consolidation might have already marked your operation for exit.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Just pause on that number. That's the new price of entry, it seems, into this industrialized dairy system.
It's a staggering benchmark.
And it's driven, like you said, by the urgency. But there are these two really contradictory data points that expose the whole thing, the whole engineered extinction idea.
Right. Let's lay those out. On one hand, you've got the massive structural investment. The IDFA, the International Dairy Foods Association, they're tracking over $11 billion in new processing capacity.
$11 billion.
Yeah, being built across the country through 2028. We're talking huge drying facilities, high-tech bottling lines, specialty protein plants.
This isn't small potatoes. This is a statement, right? It's permanent industrialization.
Exactly. But then here's the critical contradiction, the piece that makes that whole $11 billion investment look almost predatory.
Which is?
USDA milk production is actually trending down slightly, maybe off by about 0.25% this year, but the trend line is clear. It's shrinking.
So hang on. Processors are building these massive high-overhead factories while the raw material supply is actually getting smaller.
Precisely. And that shrinking supply, it means one thing for the folks who put up that $11 billion. They have to capture every last drop of the existing milk just to justify the cost of that infrastructure.
Okay, and that leads right to the most provocative point you mentioned earlier, the one that's hard to swallow.
Yeah, the idea that the industry actually needs farmers to keep losing money. Slowly.
Why? Why would the system want me to fail slowly? It sounds counterintuitive.
Because slow failure keeps the volume flowing at a cheap price while the system retools itself for the mega-dairies. It prevents a sudden supply shock.
You're still supplying the milk they need, even if it's killing your equity. I keep thinking about that quote from the Iowa farmer in the piece.
The one about the robots.
Yeah. Runs about 300 head, typical multi-generation family farm. He said, I spent $650,000 on robots, and I think I just financed my own funeral.
Wow, that just encapsulates the entire dilemma, doesn't it?
It really does. You invest what little capital you have left, hoping technology will save you. But that investment just puts you deeper in debt to a system that doesn't really want you long term.
And it locks you in, right? Ensures you can't pivot or sell easily when the real crisis hits.
Exactly. You financed your own exit barrier.
Okay, let's unpack this $11 billion betrayal, because that's really what it feels like, this massive investment in processing capacity. It is emphatically not for the average family farm.
No, it's engineered specifically for their replacement. By industrial scale operations, it's a fundamental shift.
Driven by the sheer mechanics of these new billion-dollar plants.
Absolutely.
Take that $650 million Fairlife plant in Webster, New York. Governor Hochul was celebrating a, big economic development win.
Sure, ribbon cuttings and all that.
But if you read between the lines, talk to the engineers who design these places. They are built exclusively for mega-dairies. They have to be.
And we're not talking just large dairies in the old sense. We mean operations that can deliver tanker after tanker of identical milk, 24/7.
Identical is the key word. Consistency and butterfat, protein. The solids, they need less than 2% variation day in, day out.
Think about that. If you're running 300 cows, testing components maybe once a month, dealing with seasonal feed changes, you're just noise in their system.
You're not even on their radar. Their supply chain is built for industrial uniformity because the machinery in that $650 million plant, it can't handle inconsistency. It can't handle downtime.
The engineering demands volume, sure, but also chemical predictability, day after day.
And that volume requirement alone acts as a filter, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A 300 cow operation, maybe you fill one tanker every day, maybe every other day. These plants need 20, 30, 40 tankers constantly flowing in.
Plus the logistics cost. Sending a tanker 100 miles to pick up 18,000 pounds is way more expensive per hundredweight than sending it 10 miles for 80,000 pounds from one spot.
The small farm just becomes too expensive to haul from, even if the milk itself is fine.
And you see the results everywhere. The article points to North Dakota. That timeline, it's gut-wrenching. 1,810 dairy farms in 1987.
Now,
the latest census. 24 left.
24 from over 1,800. That's that's an extinction event.
And it happened because consolidation created these regional single-buyer monopolies that just choked out the smaller suppliers over time.
Okay, wait. This brings us back to that contradiction. Building $11 billion in capacity while supply is shrinking, that should honestly terrify every producer listening.
What's the implication then?
Well, these new plants, they're only profitable if they run near full capacity, right? Like above 75% utilization, ideally, if supply is declining overall.
They become desperately reliant on the few remaining large suppliers to keep the machines running.
Exactly. Which means those giant operations gain massive leverage. They can almost name their price eventually.
But the smaller producers, they lose all leverage. That's where the single buyer monopoly really bites.
Like Mike Gunther, that Nebraska farmer mentioned in the piece. He said if there's only one buyer in a 100-mile radius, your physical assets, your parlor, barns, tank become worth almost nothing if you try to sell.
Why is that? Explain that bit.
Because the regional processor, the only buyer, they don't need your assets. They just need your milk volume. Once they've secured enough volume from the mega-dairies.
They have zero incentive to buy your smaller, maybe less efficient parlor or barn setup.
Right. The value of your assets gets destroyed because there's no competitive market left to sell them into. They only hold value if another dairy farmer buys them to keep dairying.
And that $11 billion investment is systematically eliminating that potential buyer pool.
Precisely. So that $11 billion, it's not building a future for dairy. It's building a future for the maybe 300 farms left standing when the dust settles.
The ones with the capital and scale to meet those industrial demands, 204 head in uniformity.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's talk about the two biggest pieces of, Well, conventional wisdom being sold to mid-sized farmers right now. Automation and organic.
The supposed saviors.
Yeah, and often, frankly, they feel more like traps, designed to generate revenue for the input guys, not long-term solvency for the farmer.
We hear it constantly, right? You must automate to survive. You can't find labor.
But is crushing debt actually better than just making a clean exit tomorrow? That's the hard question.
Let's challenge that conventional wisdom with the hard data on robots. What does it really cost?
We're talking typically $650,000 for a system. And that's just the robots themselves. Doesn't include barn modifications, maybe electrical upgrades.
So easily $750,000 all in, sometimes more.
Yeah. And that often means an annual loan payment, maybe over 7 years, of nearly $100,000.
$100,000 a year. Okay, and what are you getting for that? What are the actual savings?
The numbers from the Wisconsin dairy centers, they show the best case labor savings. The absolute fairy tale scenario where everything runs perfectly is only about $38,000 a year.
$38,000. That's it. That assumes you replace 2 full-time people, which isn't always even possible.
Exactly. You still need management, feeding, cleaning. So you're paying $100,000 a year to save maybe $38,000.
That math doesn't work.
And that's before you account for the hidden costs, the new overhead.
Like what?
High specialized maintenance contracts.
Yeah.
Mandatory software licenses. You need specialized techs who charge, what, $150 an hour? And they might have to drive 300 miles to get to you.
Right. My cousin in Minnesota, he put robots in. They were down 3 times just since August. That's lost production, missed checks, plus the repair bills.
And those bills eat up that marginal $38,000 saving real fast, even before you think about the loan payment itself.
Okay, the sales reps, they'll promise a production bump, right? Better components, maybe?
Sure. Maybe you net an extra $20,000 to $50,000 in milk sales in a really good year.
Yeah.
But even if you add that to the labor savings,
You're still rarely covering the principal on that $100,000 loan payment.
no. You've basically just traded manageable labor headaches for unmanageable, crushing debt, and it locks you in. You have to keep operating for 5-7 years just to try and pay the damn thing off.
This hits the core flaw, the scale efficiency point we always talk about. The 2,000 cow operations, they get these savings automatically.
Right, through their sheer size, their management structure, their ability to negotiate labor, automate feed and manure handling efficiently across the whole system.
So the smaller producers are paying $750,000 the price of a decent chunk of land, remember, to achieve what the big guys basically get for free through economies of scale.
It's an unsustainable cost structure. It feels designed to keep small farms operating just long enough to generate loan interest for the banks, not long enough to achieve real generational viability.
Okay, what about the other savior, the organic route?
The organic mess. So many mid-sized producers tried that pivot, right? The premium market strategy.
Only to find the door slammed shut when they finally qualified.
We were at that meeting in Vermont last month. Heard Ed Maltby from the Northeast Organic Group. He laid it out plain. We've been underwater on cost of production since 2018.
6 years. Losing money even in the quote-unquote premium market.
Because the cost of certified organic feed went through the roof.
And the trap is multi-layered, isn't it? There's the transition first.
Yeah, the 3-year transition. You're paying those crazy high organic feed prices, $300, $350 a ton for corn, maybe more.
While you're still getting conventional milk prices, you're guaranteed to lose money for 3 solid years just to qualify.
Burning equity the whole time. And then, if you make it through, you hit the market closure problem.
The processors just cherry pick who they want based on, guess what? Volume. Same as the conventional guys.
Remember that case study? The Wisconsin producer smart operator finished her transition last spring, doing about 18,000 pounds a day.
Ed?
Rejected by Organic Valley, by Horizon. They told her they demand producers guarantee a 30,000 pounds daily minimum.
So it's the exact same pattern, wealth extraction.
Everyone made money except the farmer.
Right.
The certification consultants got their fees, maybe $10K to $50K. The feed companies locked in those high-margin organic contracts.
And the farmer got more debt and a certified product nobody would actually buy at a price that covered the costs.
It's brutal.
Okay, this is where we need to get uncomfortable. We need to talk about the co-ops, the structure that was intended to protect farmers.
The co-op betrayal, as the article puts it.
Yeah, we have to challenge this idea that they represent all members equally anymore. because they're economic entities built on volume.
And that volume is increasingly controlled by their largest members, who often sit on the boards.
So they're not really just collective bargaining units anymore, are they?
No, they've evolved into these massive, vertically integrated logistics and manufacturing firms. Their primary duty now feels like keeping their own plants running at volume.
You just need to look at the history. Remember the DFA antitrust case back in 2015? They settled for $50 million, plus the Dean Foods settlement, another $30 million.
Yeah, I remember covering those hearings. The accusations were serious market manipulation, restricting competition, especially in the Southeast and Midwest.
And the source material points out that those types of practices, or things derived from them, they're basically just standard operating procedure now, because the whole structure rewards volume control above all else.
And look how they lock you in, those contract penalties.
Right. Milk supply contracts often need 12, even 24 months notice if you want to leave.
And they dangle these loyalty bonuses in front of you.
Which instantly convert to exit penalties if you try to switch processors. It's basically deferred equity they hold hostage.
Exactly. Held hostage to make sure you keep supplying them for 2 years, even if a much better offer comes along down the road.
I heard about an Ohio farmer found a competitor offering 50 cents more per hundredweight. That's significant money, right? Could cover his family living for a month.
Yeah, huge difference.
But the co-op, when he told them he wanted to switch, they said the extra hauling fees, which they controlled, would cost him 70 cents more.
So they wiped out the advantage, used their control over logistics to keep him trapped in their pricing structure.
It's all about supply chain dominance.
And the board structure, that really tells the tale. You got to look past the official press releases.
What did your colleague find covering those DFA meetings?
At one regional meeting, get this, 8 out of the 12 board members were shipping over 50,000 pounds a day themselves. Mega operations.
8 out of 12. So what does that concentration of power mean for the farmer listening who's shipping, say, 15,000 pounds?
It means the board is, effectively, managing the decline of small farms while protecting the profitability and stability of their own massive operations.
Their fiduciary duty seems to have shifted, away from equal representation for all members towards just managing volume and scale, which primarily benefits themselves.
They're market managers now, not traditional cooperative representatives.
And this leads to that really tough economic realization we touched on earlier.
The system needs you to fail slowly. Banks, co-ops, processors, they all need that sustained volume. And the banks, they need active loans on their books.
I remember that farm credit loan officer admitting it in the piece. They'd rather restructure a bad loan 5 times, adding interest and fees each time, mind you.
Then report a foreclosure.
Right.
Because foreclosure forces them to recognize the full loss on that asset immediately. It hurts the bank's balance sheet.
But restructuring, it keeps the farmer technically operational, keeps the milk flowing cheap to the plant.
And keeps the interest revenue ticking for the lender.
So they actually need farmers to keep operating, even at a loss. Your negative equity burn rate, your slow financial death.
That's what keeps their loan portfolios looking healthy on paper and keeps those processing plants supplied with cheap milk. You are, in effect, subsidizing the entire consolidation system just by staying in business.
Wow. Okay, so if the co-op structure and the debt are the current mechanisms extracting value, let's look ahead. The future threat that targets the very value of milk components themselves.
Lab-run proteins, precision fermentation.
If consolidation is the hammer, this feels like the nail in the coffin for traditional dairy profitability.
Because farmers focus on that bulk tank price, right? But they forget that it's the high-value functional specialty proteins, the caseins, the whey isolates, that have historically subsidized the cheap commodity milk price.
Yeah.
Allowed it to stay competitive.
And that subsidy, it's being targeted directly by synthetic biology. The data is already here. Leprino Foods, they control something like 85% of the U.S. pizza cheese market crunch.
Huge player.
They partnered with that Dutch company, Fooditive, just this past July 2024, to produce lab-grown casein using precision fermentation.
And this isn't just R&D anymore. They're planning to produce hundreds of thousands of tons starting next year. Casein specifically.
Which is crucial for things like non-melting cheese, infant formula, high-end protein shakes, the high-margin stuff.
Exactly. The margin drivers for the whole industry.
Now, the economics are interesting. Right now, yeah, lab proteins cost maybe 2 to 5 times more than real dairy.
But that's now. The scale-up curve for synthetic biology is steep. Costs are dropping fast.
And the projections. They should scare every dairy producer. They're projecting lab proteins will capture maybe 15% of the high-value protein market by 2030?
15%. And when those functional ingredients, the specialty caseins, the specific whey proteins, when they shift to a reliable, consistent, lab-based supply chain, what's left for traditional dairies?
Just the cheap commodity stuff, right? Fluid milk, basic cheddar, butter, the products with the absolute thinnest, most volatile margins.
The high-margin components that kept the whole system afloat are being systematically stripped away by labs, highly controlled, geographically independent labs.
Which explains why processors are building $11 billion in new infrastructure now. They're getting ready for a future where they only need the absolute cheapest commodity milk from the biggest, most reliable suppliers.
To serve the basic volume market, while they source their high-profit specialty ingredients from labs or imports.
The consolidation timeline is accelerating because of these tech disruptions.
Absolutely. Connect the dots. Operations with 1,000+ cows now control about 2/3 of U.S. milk production. That's up massively from barely half back in 2017.
So we're not just heading towards consolidation. We are smack in the middle of a huge engineered restructuring.
The International Farm Comparison Network, they project the U.S. will be down to maybe 18,000 total dairy farms by 2030.
18,000, down from, what was it, just a decade or two ago?
Yeah.
Well over 100,000?
Yeah. That future looks exactly like the poultry industry, doesn't it? Vertical integration, contract production, 3 or 4 giant companies controlling everything.
Okay, but just when the mega-dairies think they've achieved perfect, untouchable scale,
There's a curveball.
a biological wildcard, one that threatens to turn that scale efficiency into a huge liability overnight.
H5N1, avian influenza in dairy cattle.
We're seeing it spread significantly now. Infected herds confirmed in, 17 states? California alone had over 475 confirmed cases reported. This isn't just a localized blip anymore. It feels like a systemic risk, especially to that industrialized model.
And the vulnerability is the scale. The CDC research suggests it can spread through milking equipment. Think about a 2,500 cow operation.
One machine touching every single cow, shared labor crews moving between barns.
They're essentially petri dishes, like the article says. A small exposure can become a massive herd infection incredibly fast.
Jeopardizing the very volume that $650 million processor needs. The system built for tiny 2% component variation. It cannot tolerate a sudden 20% drop in milk volume because half the herd is sick.
Nope. Meanwhile, that little 50-cow farm everyone wrote off as non-viable, suddenly they have strategic isolation, less cow movement, less contact, smaller equipment batches.
It's a biological advantage, ironically, but as the source cautions, and we have to emphasize this.
Bird flu is not a business plan. You can't bank on a pandemic saving your farm.
So if the writing is on the wall from consolidation, from technology, from market access, we have to talk about the hardest reality, the exit math.
The math nobody in the industry wants to show you because it involves comparing a strategic exit now versus delaying. And it's all about preserving your family's wealth. We need to talk about the equity burn rate.
Explain that. What is the equity burn rate?
It's the amount of your actual personal wealth, the value tied up in your land, your cows, your equipment, that is literally dissolving, disappearing. Every single year you stay in operation while losing money.
Okay, let's use that common scenario from the article. A 200-cow farm losing $75,000 a year after accounting for family living expenses, and that's probably living pretty lean.
Right. If they tough it out, stay stubborn, keep going for 5 more years, hoping things turn around, they burn through $375,000 in equity. Poof. Gone.
$375,000.
Yeah. So maybe they end up with $1.1 million left in total liquidation value after 5 years if they invest that at a conservative 4% return.
That gives them about $45,000 a year in retirement income, assuming they pay off all the remaining debt first.
$45,000 a year. Now compare that. What if they exit today with their full $1.5 million asset value still intact because they didn't burn through that $375K?
That same 4% yield gets them $60,000 annually.
$60,000 versus $45,000. That is $15,000 more every single year for the rest of their lives. That is the true cost of waiting 5 years.
And nobody, not the bank, not the co-op, is going to run that calculation for you.
Never, because they profit from your delay. Your slow burn subsidizes them.
And that ties into the contrarian exit strategy mentioned, selling assets separately.
Yeah. Appraisers suggest this consistently. Sell the land to crop farmers, they'll often pay top dollar. Sell the cows strategically, maybe timing it with strong Class 3 futures when demand is higher. Sell the equipment at auction.
Why is that better than just selling the whole dairy as a turnkey operation?
Because selling it as a single dairy unit means the buyer has to take on all the problems we just discussed: the debt, the labor, the volume issues, the market access. It limits your buyer pool dramatically.
But selling the components separately.
Appraisers estimate you can yield 30% to 50% more total wealth than selling the struggling unit whole. You might need to stage it over 18-24 months for tax reasons, but the bottom line is often clear.
You're worth more disassembled than you are as a struggling operation.
Sad, but often true financially.
Okay, so let's give the listener a checklist. If you're hearing this, feeling that knot in your stomach, what are the red flags? The signs that you absolutely need to be seriously considering a strategic exit now?
All right, number one, you're losing more than $50,000 a year after accounting for real family living costs, not just depreciation gains, real cash loss.
Number two, you're over 55, maybe even over 50, with no clear funded succession plan in place. This isn't a business you can just hand down anymore without millions in investment.
Three, your debt-to-asset ratio is creeping over 60%. That puts you in serious danger territory with the bank if there's any market hiccup or bad crop year.
4, there's only one processor, one milk check within a 50 or maybe even 75-mile radius. That's the single buyer monopoly trap. It kills your asset value.
5, you know you need $500,000 or more in upgrades, manure handling, compliance, parlor updates, but you simply cannot afford it. If you can't afford to improve, you're actively managing decline.
And finally, the lifestyle one. Working 80-plus hours a week, haven't had a real vacation in 3 years, that's not a business model. That's burnout waiting to happen. And burnout leads to bad decisions.
It does. And the final warning, the overarching one, is that 24-month countdown. That $11 billion in processing overcapacity will hit the market. It will pressure prices downward, likely by 2027, as plants scramble for milk to fill their capacity.
So the decision is coming, one way or another. Farmers have maybe 2 years, maybe less, to make it themselves.
Before the market forces it on them and likely destroys a huge chunk of their remaining equity in the process.
Which brings us back to that absolutely staggering statistic from the analysis.
Yeah, the hardest truth. Looking purely at the financial data, the source concluded that 60 to 70% of current dairy farmers would likely be better off financially by selling tomorrow.
60 to 70%, that's devastating.
It is, but it's the honest financial translation. So what's the real role of the small or mid-sized family farmer right now in this system?
What is it?
You're not really a dairy farmer in the traditional sense anymore. You're becoming an unwitting participant in your own wealth extraction. Your losses are, in a way, necessary to subsidize the industry's transition to this vertically integrated mega-farm model.
The only power you have left is deciding when that extraction stops.
Exactly, to protect the decades of wealth your family built before it disappears.
Okay, let's make this actionable then. Farmers just finished milking, driving to the feed store, mind reeling from all this. What are the 3 concrete things they need to act on?
Okay, number 1, immediate action, like this week. Calculate your actual equity burn rate.
How?
Don't just use the accountant's P&L with depreciation. Look at your actual change in net worth year over year, accounting for operating losses after family living. Use that $75,000 annual loss, destroying $375,000 equity example as a benchmark. Is your personal cost of waiting $50K, $100K, $150Ks in destroyed wealth every year? Get that number, confront it.
Okay, medium term. Next 3 to 6 months, what's the strategy?
Stop automatically buying the industry's solutions like those expensive robots if your long-term plan isn't rock solid. Run the numbers. Compare 5 years of that $100,000 robot loan payment versus maybe 5 years of paying higher wages to keep good human labor, which is actually the cheaper way to bridge the gap while you figure out the next step.
And if you do choose to scale up,
then you need a crystal clear, fully funded path to that $3 million capital mark and getting over 1,000 cows. Because that's the minimum threshold this new $11 billion infrastructure is actually being built for. Anything less is likely delaying the inevitable.
got it. And long-term positioning, thinking next 1 to 2 years.
Engage an appraiser. Engage a financial advisor. But critically, find ones who are willing to run the exit math, selling assets separately, staging the sale for tax efficiency versus the staying in math. You need that direct comparison.
And you have to make the decision before that processing overcapacity hits and potentially crashes prices by 2027.
Exactly. Don't let the market decide your fate for you. Take control of the exit if that's the right path.
Powerful stuff. Hard truths today.
Indeed. This has been another deep dive based on the kind of raw analysis you find at the Bullvine. If this no BS approach helps your operation, definitely head over to www.thebullvine.com. There are more articles there telling you what's really happening behind the scenes in dairy.
And seriously, subscribe wherever you get your deep dives or podcasts. We're putting out episodes twice weekly now, digging into these critical issues, and trust me, you do not want to miss what we've got coming next week. We're diving into the regulatory hurdles around farm transition planning.
Ooh.
And specifically, the potential liability and frankly, the insurance nightmares related to this H5N1 wildcard and what it could mean for those highly leveraged mega-dairies. It's going to be interesting.
Looking forward to it.
We'll see you then.
What you just heard changes everything. The decision is coming whether you're ready or not. You've got 24 months before overcapacity crashes prices and forces mass consolidation. Here's what you need to do right now. First, run the exit math we discussed. If you're losing $75,000 annually, calculate what 5 more years costs versus exiting today. Second, look at your co-op board. Count how many are running mega operations. They're managing your decline, not representing you. Third, and most importantly, share this episode with every dairy farmer you know. They deserve the truth, even if it's painful. Visit thebullvine.com for the full article with all the numbers and sources we discussed today. And if you're one of the farmers who needs to make a decision, don't wait for the industry to make it for you. Subscribe to the Bullvine podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're the only publication telling dairy farmers the truth about their future. Remember, you're not just a dairy farmer anymore. You're an unwitting participant in your own wealth extraction. The only question is whether you'll recognize it in time. This is the Bullvine, and the decision is yours to make.